What is a conversation? Welcome to Philosopher's Corner. I'm John. What is a conversation? We've all had them. We're all likely to have more. What are they? By definition, a conversation is an exchange of thoughts and feelings between a couple of people. It sounds simple enough. It's an exchange of thoughts and feelings between two people, usually through verbal language, but it can be through sign language, and I suppose it could be through telepathy, and however else we want to exchange. Now, that doesn't say anything about the format of the exchange, and it doesn't say anything about the style of the exchange. So what can it be, and what are the impacts of conversation, right? So conversation, on the surface of it, it just looks like a regular Joe Rogan podcast, right? I think that's, we're in the era of podcasting, the golden era of podcasting, and great podcasts essentially are just filmed conversations by people who know how to have a conversation. Now, everybody thinks they're having a conversation when they're really just talking with somebody. And so I think maybe that would be a good place to begin, is how do you know when you're just talking with somebody and when you're having a conversation with somebody, right? When you're talking or speaking with somebody, it can just be transactional, right? You're at the store and you're talking with the cashier and you're just discussing this transaction. You're not really discussing thoughts or feelings. And typically, when people are not being fulfilled, like conversations are fulfilling, let's put it that way, because thoughts and feelings being exchanged, that fulfills a deep need in every human being. And so sometimes when people get fed up in daily life, when they're walking around and they're talking to people, I think part of the confusion is they're expecting to have a conversation with somebody sometimes, and instead they're just having a transactional talking or speaking with somebody. So the common thing that will come up for people, and myself included, will be, oh, well, somebody says, well, how are you? And then you go, well, do you really care how I am? Like, did you just use a opener for a conversation and then shut it down to just make it a transactional talk? Like, did you inquire as to what my thoughts and feelings actually are, and then just not allow for that to come out when it's welled up in me or the person and it wants to come out, and now you're saying, no, I didn't really want to have an actual conversation. I was just giving you a salutatory greeting. I was just saying it to like keep it going. Just transactional. And I do think that causes a lot of frustration for people, because people haven't really been alerted to the importance of actual conversation in their lives. And when you're actually exchanging your thoughts and feelings with people, it's deeply cathartic. It may be one of the most cathartic things there are. I mean, if you really examine therapy is just a really one-sided conversation where the professional in the room, the therapist, really just knows how to ask prodding questions or lead the person into lengthy one-sided conversations where the patient can unload their thoughts and feelings on somebody who's professionally trained to listen and process the thoughts and feelings. It's an extreme example because it's medicinal, but at the core of it is the conversational dynamic. The conversational dynamic being the exchange of thoughts and feelings. And then when you get into more even-handed ones like podcasts, where thoughts and feelings are being exchanged and it's being observed, now you're seeing that there's fruits of conversations. That's why is the podcast useful? Why is the podcast valuable? Why do people watch it? Because the combination of people exchanging thoughts and feelings is highly valuable because new perspectives are reached and things are synthesized and things grow out of it. In fact, one of the great discoveries in human, how would I put it, interaction, behavior, quest for knowledge, however you want to define it, is the Hegelian dialectic, where it's just conversation. Really, you have an idea, you have a thesis, you have an idea, you have an antithesis, an antithesis, the other idea, and then you talk, and then at some point they come together and you get a synthesis. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Ratios vary depending on how it goes. I think it's something new, and that seems to be an inevitable process. It seems to be an unstoppable process. It's the process that it's an intellectual process that creates so much chemistry and so much synergy in the world that it could be, I think, rightfully referred to as one of the primary drivers of the human world. Because we say thoughts and feelings, the exchange of thoughts and feelings, and we say it and we think about it and we take it for granted in a way where we don't necessarily ascribe the importance and the weight and the gravity and the power to those two concepts that maybe they should. You're talking about essentially like two high level alien beings. When you take a human being and you compare it to all the spread of all the animals of creation, and you look at the thoughts and feelings that one human can have and how much of the impact it can have on the entire world, and then you take two of them and you have them exchange thoughts and feelings, like all the psychic abilities, all the strong emotions, all the deeply held thoughts, just the whole shebang. And you have them, and they're really having a conversation. They're not just like having a talk, because a talk you can just keep it low level or whatever. But when you have a conversation and people really open up, and it's you're really getting the vibes going, that's powerful. That's really powerful, especially depending on what the thoughts and feelings and experiences and education levels and knowledge levels of the individuals in the conversation are. So conversations are incredibly powerful. They have the potential to change the world. And if you think about it, really all of our leaders' jobs is just to have intelligent conversations. Right? Like our leaders, it doesn't matter. It could be the leader of a sports team, it could be leaders of nations, leaders of any stripe, leaders of any level. When it comes time to represent us or get things done, what do? They have meetings. And why do people have meetings? They have conversations. That's really it. When it's time to like figure out important things, like, oh, are we going to go to war? What do? They have conversations. Oh, did you get on the phone with somebody? Why? Exchange of thoughts and feelings. Thoughts and feelings. It's not just thoughts. That's the other thing too. If you're having a conversation, you're only expressing your thoughts. It's not really a conversation. And if you have a conversation and all you're doing is expressing your feelings, you're not really having a conversation, because a conversation by definition is an exchange of thoughts and feelings. It's a balanced endeavor to some degree. Now you can do, there's the art of conversation, where once you understand these things and once you get the basics down of how to have a conversation with somebody else, which is it's giving and receiving, it's talking and listening, speaking and hearing, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Once you get that, once you've become an artistic practitioner of conversing, once you have practiced and solidified the art of conversation, then you can have a variety of styles of conversation, and you can have them in different ways, in different manners. They can have different outcomes. And honestly, it becomes one of the most enjoyable things in life, because then you can really get to know people. Because essentially in the physical world, we're not much more than a representation of our thoughts and feelings. It really kind of covers most of what we're up to. And so when you can actually sit down and you know how to have a conversation with somebody, and other people know that you know how to have a conversation with somebody, especially if you sit down with somebody else who you know knows how to have a conversation, and they know you know how to have a conversation, and then you get meta and you know that they know that you know that they know that you know that you know how to have a conversation, and vice versa. They know that you know that they know that you know that they know how to have a conversation. Okay, well, that unlocks levels of conversation and principles and discussions that you can have with those people. And those can be conversations that not only change the lives of the participants, but those can be conversations that change the course of the lives of many people. Those are the conversations where you can make new discoveries, have new epiphanies, have new approaches to life, just new perspectives in general. And when that happens, well, it attracts things outside of the people having the conversation. And then there's more things to have conversations about. So conversations. It's a couple people sitting down, exchanging their thoughts and feelings. Some people think they're having a conversation. They're not. They're getting there. You know when you are. When you have a conversation, it changes you, even a little bit. And even a little bit of change is good. Right? And just hearing somebody out and people feel heard and felt. And we all need that. So conversations, especially at the level of evolution that the species is at, where we have language and we have understandings and we have experience and we have access to experiences outside of our own, and we have a catalog of history of conversations of what other people have thought and felt and exchanged with each other, both like individually and as groups. uh, it's a great time. There's probably never been a better time to be alive to have conversations. Now, obviously, in the modern world, there's a lot of distractions from conversations. There's, all the tech that's out there and all the people vying for your attention and all the different organizations trying to get inside your head and all the different distractions and obstacles of the modern world. But when it's all simplified, conversations between human beings is really where it's at. And I think it's fun when you look through history and you look through especially like cultural anthropology, and you can see which countries and which peoples like really value conversations, which really means they value the human experience. A culture that's concerned with conversation and promoting talking and conversing and interaction in that manner, that means they value the human experience. It means they value the individual. It means they value what's going on. And in my opinion, that's where the experience is at. That's what's up. It's life is about the individual having an experience and then being able to talk to other individuals, and things grow out of that. All these like ideas of groups and structures and organizations and all these other things that arise, which is fine. They're fine when they arise on the fundamentals of individuals being self-aware and being able to express themselves to others and also take in others' individual experiences back. And the synergy and the energy and the creation that's formed out of those conversations are what produce good things. When the conversations continue to happen and people can, there's a balancing of the synergy of conversations when they're actually free and open and the exchanges are healthy and proper, and they get into really deep waters, and things that are beyond the scope of the conversation can be born out of the conversations, and the linking of conversations being held simultaneously throughout the world can create and feed into a consciousness, an overall consciousness, which some of us can tap into, but honestly, it's the consciousness that life needs from us. That's sort of the thing that we're putting up into the air, that like maybe we're not in an era to necessarily understand exactly how much life needs us to put that into the consciousness, to create the consciousness. But I think it's one of the main factors that updates the consciousness. If you think of the consciousness like so how Apple has the cloud and you put all your info in the cloud, think of the conversations are putting information and realizations real time into the cloud, but it's the consciousness. The human consciousness is the cloud. And all of the metaphysical and life factors are essentially run and sourced out of the consciousness, out of the cloud. I'll talk about consciousness in another video, but I believe that that's what one of conversation's great contributions is to the human experiences. Aside from the individuals involved, which is super important, the matriculation of those perspectives into the consciousness are paramount. And yeah. Well, I think we covered what is conversations in broad strokes pretty well there. Obviously, feel free to comment, whatever you feel like, make your own videos. I mean, we'll come back to this one, but conversations, they're important and enjoyable, and one of the best parts about being a human, in my opinion. So thanks for spending some time here at Philosopher's Corner. I hope you have a great day.